Anthony Reed had spent 8 years at the top of the American tech world. Untouchable, untrusting, convinced that every smile aimed at him came with a hidden invoice. So when he walked into a small Brooklyn diner one rainy October night, he left the private jet, the security detail, and the last name that opened every door behind him. To everyone inside, including the woman pouring his coffee, he was just Tony, a guy down on his luck looking for a hot meal and a quiet booth. He never expected Lucy Harper, the diner owner who believed in people more than bank accounts, would be the one person capable of making him want to stay exactly where he was pretending to be. If you've ever wondered whether someone could love you without knowing what you're worth, stay. Drop a single in the comments right now if you believe the best love stories start when the masks come off. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. The diner was called Harper's. Faded red awning, neon open 24 sign flickering in the rain. Vinyl booths patched with duct tape. The smell of frying onions and coffee that had been fresh sometime yesterday. It sat on a corner in Bushwick, Brooklyn, the kind of place that had survived gentrification by refusing to change anything except the prices on the menu. Still under $12 for a full breakfast. Lucy Harper owned it outright, had since she was 26, when her father passed and left her the keys along with $38,000 in back taxes and a walk-in cooler that leaked. She was 31 now, 5'4", dark blonde hair always in a messy bun secured with a pencil. Blue eyes that saw everything and judged almost nothing. She worked 16-hour shifts, knew every regular's order, and still smiled at strangers like they might be having the worst day of their life. Anthony Reed, 38, net worth $14.7 billion, founder and CEO of ReedSync, the cloud security platform every Fortune 500 company used. Hadn't eaten in a place like this since college. He had come to Brooklyn that night for one reason: to disappear. 3 weeks earlier, at a charity gala in Manhattan, a woman he'd dated briefly and briefly forgotten, had sold their private text messages to a tabloid. The headlines were predictable: billionaire's bedroom demands, ReedSync CEO's dark side. None of it was true, but truth never sold as well as scandal. His board suggested a brief hiatus. His PR team suggested a wellness retreat. Anthony suggested they all go to hell. Instead, he drove himself to Brooklyn, no driver, no security, in a 10-year-old Subaru he'd bought cash from a lot in Queens. He'd cut his hair shorter, stopped shaving, wore jeans and a faded hoodie. No watch, no wallet with black cards, just cash and a burner phone. He walked into Harper's at 10:47 p.m. on a Wednesday. The place was nearly empty. Lucy was behind the counter wiping it down with a rag that had seen better decades. She looked up. "Sit anywhere," she said. "Coffee's fresh. Menus on the wall." He chose the booth farthest from the door. She brought water without asking. "You want coffee? Please. Regular or decaf?" "Regular. Black." She nodded. No small talk. No once-over. Just turned and poured. When she came back with the mug, he was staring at the menu like it was written in another language. "Special tonight is meatloaf," she said. "Comes with mashed and green beans. Or I can do eggs any style if you're feeling breakfast." "Meatloaf," he said. "Thank you." She scribbled it down. "You new around here?" "Just passing through." She nodded once. "Food'll be out in 10. She left. He watched her move. Efficient, unhurried, the way people move when they know exactly where everything belongs. The meatloaf arrived hot. It was good, better than anything he'd eaten at Michelin-starred places in the last decade. He ate slowly, watched her wipe tables, refill salt shakers, hum softly to whatever oldie station was playing low on the radio. When he finished, she brought the check. $11.47. He paid with a 20. Told her to keep the change. She looked at the bill. "You sure?" "I'm sure." She pocketed it. "Come back if you're in the neighborhood." He nodded. "I might." He left. He came back the next night. Same booth. Same order. This time she lingered a second longer when she brought the coffee. "Still passing through?" "Looks like it." She smiled, small, real. Brooklyn has a way of keeping people. He almost laughed. Maybe. Night after night he returned. Always the same booth. Always meatloaf or eggs. Always cash. They started talking. Small things at first. Weather. The Knicks. The leak in the ceiling she couldn't afford to fix. One night, 2 weeks in, she sat across from him during a rare quiet hour. "You're not from here?" she said. "No, running from something?" "Someone." She nodded like she understood. "Been there." He looked at her. Really looked. "You don't ask questions. You don't give answers." He smiled. First real one in months. "Fair." She leaned forward. "You need a job?" He blinked. What? "Dishwasher, quit yesterday. Pays terrible. Hours are worse. But you get free food and no one asks for your life story." He stared. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a sink full of dishes. Take it or leave it." He thought about his board meeting tomorrow via video, about the lawyers, the headlines, the endless meetings. Then he thought about the way her hands moved when she poured coffee, like it mattered. "I'll take it." She raised a brow. "You sure?" "I'm sure." She stood. "Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late." He showed up at 5:55. She handed him an apron. "Sinks in the back. Soaps under the counter. Don't break anything expensive." He didn't. He washed dishes for 8 hours. His hands pruned. His back ached. He'd never been happier. Lucy watched him from the pass-through window. Saw the way he scrubbed every plate like it was the only thing in the world. The way he never complained. The way he laughed when Marco, her line cook cousin, made a bad joke. She didn't know his last name was Reed. He didn't know hers was Harper. But they both knew something was shifting, and neither wanted to stop it. If the rain-soaked first meeting, the meatloaf that tasted better than Michelin stars, or the moment Lucy offered Tony a dishwasher job already has you leaning in, drop your thoughts below. The first week as Tony the dishwasher felt like stepping into someone else's life. Anthony arrived at 5:55 a.m. every morning. Back door of Harper's, hoodie up against the October chill, breath fogging in the alley. Lucy was always already there, apron tied, coffee brewing, radio tuned to an oldie station that played the same 6 songs on repeat. She handed him the key to the back room without ceremony. "Sinks the same. Soaps under the counter. Try not to flood the place." He never did. He scrubbed plates, pots, silverware until his palms wrinkled and his shoulders burned. The hot water scalded at first, then numbed. Grease clung under his nails. He learned quickly that the diner's ancient dishwasher leaked unless you jiggled the door just right. He learned Lucy's system. Stack the heavy plates on the left rack, glasses on the right, never mix silverware with food scraps or the machine jammed. She never hovered, never praised, never criticized. She just worked, pouring coffee, flipping eggs, calling orders to Marco in the kitchen, wiping counters until they gleamed under fluorescent lights. But she noticed things that on day for she slid a pair of yellow rubber gloves across the pass-through. "You're going to ruin your hands." He stared at the gloves like they were foreign objects. "I'm fine. You're bleeding on my dishes." He looked down. Small cuts on his knuckles from the steel wool, pink water swirling in the sink that he put the gloves on. She didn't comment. On day 7. Rain hammering the awning. She left a small tube of hand cream beside his sink during the lunch rush. No note, just the cream that he used it. That night, after close, she found him still there, wiping down the stainless steel behind the grill even though his shift had ended 2 hours earlier. "You don't have to do that." "I know." She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, apron still on. "You're not just passing through anymore, are you?" He straightened. "Doesn't feel like it." She studied him, long, quiet. "You're running from something big." He didn't deny it. She pushed off the frame. "Come on, I'll make you something to eat. You look like you haven't had a real meal in weeks." He followed her to the kitchen. Marco had already left. Lucy pulled ingredients from the walk-in: eggs, cheese, spinach, yesterday's bread. She cracked eggs into a bowl, whisked them with salt and pepper, tossed in spinach, grated cheese that he watched, silent, mesmerized by the economy of her movements. She slid the omelet onto a plate, added toast, pushed it toward him. Sit. He sat at the small prep table. She sat across from him. Coffee for her, water for him. They ate in silence for a minute. Then she asked, "Why the diner?" He looked up. "Seemed like the last place anyone would look for me." She nodded. "Smart." Another bite. Then quietly, "You're not used to people not knowing who you are." He set his fork down. "No. Does it feel good?" He thought about it, really thought. "It feels honest." She smiled, small, knowing. "Honesty's expensive. I'm learning that." They finished eating. She cleared the plates, he stood to help. She didn't stop him. When the kitchen was clean, she turned off the lights except one over the sink. "Lock up when you leave." She walked to the door. Paused. "Tony?" He looked up. "Don't disappear." He nodded once. "I won't." She left. He stood in the dark kitchen a long time, listening to the hum of the cooler, the drip of the faucet he still hadn't fixed, the rain on the awning outside. Then he locked up, walked home, 3 blocks to the furnished studio he'd rented month to month under a fake name. He lay on the narrow bed staring at the ceiling cracks. For the first time in years, he didn't check stock prices before sleep. He thought about the way Lucy's hands moved when she whisked eggs. He slept better than he had in a decade. Weeks blurred into months. He became part of the rhythm. 6 a.m. Arrive, start coffee filters, scrub yesterday's pots. 7 a.m. Breakfast rush, pancakes, bacon, endless coffee refills. 10 a.m. Lull, wipe counters, restock sugar packets, fix whatever was leaking that day. Noon. Lunch rush, burgers, fries, club sandwiches. 2 p.m. Close for 2 hours, Lucy's only break. 4 p.m. Reopen, dinner prep. 10 p.m. Close, clean, count tips. Lock up. He learned every regular MR. Delgado, retired transit worker, always took his eggs over easy, tipped exactly $2. Ms. Rivera, night shift nurse, ordered the same turkey melt every night, left lipstick on the coffee cup. The kids from the high school down the block, after-school fries and milkshakes, loud, laughing, never rude. Lucy trusted him with more each week. First the register, then the books, then the walk-in cooler inventory. 1 Tuesday in December. Snow dusting the sidewalks. She handed him the keys to the front door. "You, close tonight. I have to take my mom to chemo." He took the keys. "Anything I need to know? Don't burn the place down. And don't let Marco sneak extra cheese fries to his friends." He smiled. "Got it." She paused at the door. Coat on, scarf wrapped tight. "Thank you, Tony." He met her eyes. "Anytime, Lucy." She left. He closed alone that night. Counted the till. $1, 247.83, off by 17 cents. He covered it from his pocket. Locked the register. Wiped down every surface. Turned off lights except the one over the register. Locked the front door. Stepped into the snow. Looked back at the diner. Neon sign flickering, windows steamed. He felt something settle. Deep, unfamiliar. Belonging. He walked home through the snow. Hands in pockets. Flakes catching in his eyelashes. The next morning he arrived at 5:45. Lucy was already there. Coffee brewing, apron tied. She looked tired, dark circles, but still smiling. "How'd it go?" "Perfect. Off by 17 cents. I covered it." She laughed softly. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." She studied him. "You're good at this. At closing. At being here." He shrugged. "It's easy when it matters." She looked away, quick, almost shy. They worked in companionable silence. Around noon, slow period. She made him a grilled cheese and tomato soup. They sat in the back booth. She pushed the plate toward him. "Eat. You're too skinny." He laughed. "I'm not skinny. You're not eating enough real food." He took a bite. It was perfect. Crisp bread, melted cheddar, tomato soup rich with basil. He closed his eyes. "This is dangerous." She smiled. "Everything good is." They ate in quiet. Then she asked, softly, "Why do you stay?" He looked at her. Really looked. Because for the first time in years I don't feel like I have to be anyone else. Her breath caught, just barely. That's a big thing to say. It's the truth. She reached across the table, covered his hand with hers, just for a second, then pulled back. We close early tonight, Christmas Eve. Come back at 6. Dinner. My place. Nothing fancy. He stared. You're inviting me to Christmas Eve dinner. I am. With your family? Just Mom and me. Marco's working the firehouse. But yes, family. He swallowed. I'd like that. She smiled. Small, real warm. Good. Christmas Eve arrived cold and bright. Anthony, Tony, showed up at 5:55 p.m. with a bottle of red wine he'd bought from the corner bodega and a small poinsettia from the bodega's sidewalk display. Lucy opened the door. Jeans, red sweater, hair down, apron dusted with flour. You brought flowers. And wine. She took both. Come in. The apartment was above the diner, narrow stairs, small living room, kitchen that smelled of garlic and rosemary. A tiny tree in the corner. Lights twinkling, ornaments handmade and mismatched. A menorah on the windowsill. Lucy was half Jewish on her mother's side. A table set for 3 mismatched plates, cloth napkins, candles already lit. Her mother, Ellen, sat on the couch. Thin from chemo but eyes bright. She looked at Anthony like she already knew him. You're the dishwasher. He smiled. I am. She patted the couch. Sit. Tell me why a man with hands like yours is washing dishes in Bushwick. Saturday Lucy brought wine glasses. They talked. Ellen asked about his family. He gave the half-truth. Parents gone, no siblings, grew up moving around. Lucy listened, quiet, watchful. Dinner was simple. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, stuffing Lucy made from her grandmother's recipe. They ate slowly, laughed at Ellen's stories of Lucy as a child. Always fixing things, always bringing home strays. After dessert, apple pie still warm, they moved to the living room. Ellen fell asleep on the couch, blanket over her legs. Lucy covered her gently, then turned to Anthony. Come. She led him to the tiny balcony. Barely big enough for 2 chairs and a small table. Snow had started again, soft, silent. Saturday he sat beside her. They watched the street, cars passing, lights twinkling in other windows. She spoke first, quiet. You're not who you say you are. He tensed. She looked at him. I'm not stupid, Tony. Your hands. Your posture. The way you talk about money like it's something you've studied, not lived without. You're not broke. You're hiding. He exhaled, long, slow. I'm Anthony Reed. She didn't flinch. I know. I looked you up after the first week. The haircut threw me at first, but the eyes, they're unmistakable. He stared. You knew. From day 3. And you still let me wash dishes. I still let you wash dishes. Why? Because you needed to be someone else for a while. And because I liked who you were becoming. He looked away, snow falling on his lashes. I'm sorry I lied. You didn't lie. You just didn't tell the whole truth. He turned back. I'm in love with you, Lucy Harper. She searched his face. I know. He laughed. Soft. Surprised. You know, I've known for weeks. The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. The way you stay late to fix things that aren't broken. The way you carried that poinsettia tonight like it was the most important thing you'd ever held. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. I don't want to be Anthony Reed with you, he said quietly. I want to be Tony. The guy who burns toast and can't dance and washes dishes because the woman he loves asked him to. She smiled, tears shining. Then be Tony. He pulled her close. Kissed her. Slow, deep, certain. Snow fell around them. The city hummed below, and for the first time in his life, Anthony Reed felt like he was exactly where he belonged. If that Christmas Eve confession on the tiny balcony, Lucy admitting she'd known who he was all along, or the snow kiss moment after months of quiet pretending melted your heart. Drop your honest reaction in the comments below. Did Lucy's "I've known for weeks" line land perfectly? Was the "I want to be Tony" speech the turning point you needed? One feeling, one favorite second, one emoji. I'm reading every single one and loving how much you're in this with me. January arrived in Brooklyn like a slap. Wind off the East River sharp enough to cut. Sidewalks glazed with black ice. The kind of cold that made the neon Open 24 sign at Harper's look like it was shivering. Anthony, still Tony to everyone inside those walls, had been washing dishes for 3 full months. The novelty had worn off for the regulars. Now he was simply the new guy who never calls in sick. The one who fixed the walk-in cooler door so it no longer needed a shoulder shove. The one who reorganized the dry storage so Lucy could find the extra coffee filters without swearing. Lucy watched him more than she admitted. She noticed the way his shoulders had broadened from the physical work, the calluses forming on his palms where once there had been only smooth skin and expensive moisturizer. She noticed how he laughed easier now. Real laughs, not the polite curve of lips he'd worn in boardrooms. She noticed how he never complained, never asked for a raise. She paid him $15 an hour under the table, cash every Friday, never hinted that the job was beneath him. But she also noticed the cracks. The burner phone he kept face down on the prep table during breaks. Screen lighting up with unknown numbers he never answered. The way he sometimes stared out the front window at passing black SUVs like he recognized the make and model too well. The expensive wool coat he still wore to work every day, now hung on the back hook like it belonged there, but still reeking faintly of cedarwood cologne that cost more than her monthly rent. She never asked, he never offered. But the tension between them thickened every time their hands brushed passing plates through the window. Every time their eyes met across the counter during a lull. Every time he stayed late to help her mop even though his shift had ended. One Friday night in mid-January, snow piling against the windows, diner empty except for the two of them. She locked the front door at 11:03 p.m. and turned the sign to closed. Anthony was still scrubbing the grill. She walked back. You can stop. It's clean. He didn't stop. She leaned against the pass-through. Tony. He looked up. She tilted her head toward the back stairs. Come upstairs. I made chili. Too much for one person. He hesitated, only for a second. Then he rinsed his hands, hung the apron, followed her up the narrow stairs to her apartment. The living room smelled of cumin, tomatoes, and wood smoke from the small fireplace she kept burning when the radiator clanked too much. Ellen, her mother, was asleep in the recliner, quilt over her legs, soft snores mixing with the crackle of logs. Lucy led him to the kitchen table. 2 bowls already set out, cornbread on a plate, butter softening in a dish. Sit. He Saturday she served. They ate in quiet at first. Then she asked, softly, How long are you planning to keep doing this? He set his spoon down. Doing what? Pretending the world outside that door doesn't exist. He looked at her long, steady. I'm not pretending anymore. This, he gestured at the bowl, the apartment, the quiet. This is realer than anything I've had in years. She studied him. But you're still hiding. He exhaled. Yes. Why? Because if I stop hiding, everything changes. And I'm not sure I'm ready for what comes after. She reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. I'm not asking you to stop hiding from the world. I'm asking you to stop hiding from me. He turned his hand palm up, laced their fingers. I don't want to lose this, he said quietly. The second people know who I really am, this, he squeezed her hand, becomes something else, something with expectations, cameras, headlines. I've lived that life. I don't want it touching you. She searched his face. You think I can't handle it? I think you shouldn't have to. She pulled her hand back, gentle but firm. I've handled worse. Cancer with my mom. Foreclosure threats on this building. Nights wondering if the lights would stay on. I'm not fragile, Anthony. He flinched at the name, she noticed. You flinch every time I say your real name. Why? Because Anthony Reed comes with baggage. Tony doesn't. She stood. Walked around the table. Stood in front of him. Then be Tony. But be honest, Tony. Tell me what happens when the world finds out. He looked up at her, vulnerable in a way he'd never allowed himself to be. They'll come for you. Photographers, reporters, people offering you money to talk. People offering you money to leave me. My board will try to use you as leverage. My exes will sell stories. You'll become the diner girl who tamed the billionaire. And none of it will be about us. It'll be about spectacle. She crouched so they were eye level. Then we don't let it be spectacle. He laughed. Soft, bitter. You say that like it's simple. It's not simple, but it's possible. If we choose it. He reached for her face, cupped her cheek. I'm terrified of losing you to that world. She leaned into his touch. I'm terrified of you disappearing back into it. Silence wrapped around them, thick, warm. Then she stood, held out her hand. Come. He took it. She led him to the couch, opposite her sleeping mother. They sat close. She turned to him. Tell me everything, the worst parts, the things you think will scare me away. He exhaled. Then he told her. The childhood with parents who treated him like a stock option, valuable but only if it appreciated. The first billion, earned at 29, celebrated alone in a hotel suite because no one he trusted was invited. The relationships that ended when the women realized he wouldn't fund their lifestyles indefinitely. The betrayal by his former COO who leaked internal memos to competitors for 8 figures. The constant surveillance. Security, assistants, boards, shareholders, all watching, judging, waiting for him to slip. He spoke for nearly an hour. She listened, never interrupting, never flinching. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm still here. He looked at her, stunned. You heard all that, and you're still here. I heard a man who's been alone too long, who's been taught that love is transactional, who's afraid that if he lets someone see the real him, they'll leave. Or worse, stay for the wrong reasons. She took both his hands. I'm not staying for the money. I'm staying for the man who fixes my cooler without being asked. The man who listens to Mr. Delgado's war stories every morning even though he's heard them 100 times. The man who carried my mother's groceries up 3 flights last week without complaining. That man is worth more than any balance sheet. Tears burned behind his eyes. He blinked them back. I don't deserve you. She smiled, soft, fierce. You don't get to decide what I deserve. I do. And I choose you, Tony, Anthony, whoever you are on any given day. I choose you. He pulled her close, kissed her. Slow, reverent, full of everything he hadn't known how to say. She kissed him back, hands in his hair, body pressing close. They stayed like that, kissing, breathing each other in, until Ellen stirred on the recliner. Lucy pulled back, laughing softly. We should let her sleep. He nodded. They stood. She walked him to the door, paused. Stay tomorrow night. After close. We'll watch bad movies. Eat leftover pie. Be normal. He smiled, real, unguarded. I'd like normal. She rose on her toes, kissed him once more, quick, sweet. Normal it is. He left, walked home through the snow, hands in pockets, heart pounding. The next night he arrived at 11:15 p.m., carrying a 6-pack of root beer, she didn't drink much, and a bag of bodega popcorn. Lucy had changed into sweatpants and one of his old hoodies she'd borrowed from the lost and found box 3 weeks earlier. They sat on her couch, feet tangled under a blanket, Ellen asleep in her room. They watched When Harry Met Sally, her choice. Halfway through she paused it, turned to him. I need to tell you something. He tensed, only slightly. She took his hand. I've known who you were since week 2. I didn't say anything because I wanted to see who you'd be without the name. And you were better than the headlines. Kinda. Funnier. Realer. He exhaled. I'm glad you waited. She smiled. But I also need to tell you. My mom's treatments are getting more expensive. The insurance only covers so much. I've been dipping into the diner savings. If this, she gestured between them, gets out, people might offer money. For interviews. For photos. For stories. I won't take it. But the temptation will be there. And I need you to know I won't. He lifted her hand to his lips. I know. She searched his face. Do you? I do. She leaned forward. kissed him slow, deep. When they parted, she whispered, "I love you, Anthony Reed." He froze, then smiled, slow, bright. "I love you, Lucy Harper." They kissed again, longer this time. The movie stayed paused, the world outside stayed quiet. But inside that small apartment above the diner, two people who had started as strangers finally stopped pretending and started building something real. The next morning, Saturday, Anthony woke early. Lucy still slept, curled against him, breath warm on his neck. That he slipped out carefully, wrote a note on a napkin, went to get breakfast. "Be back in 20. Love, Tony and Anthony." He left, walked to the corner bodega, bought bagels, cream cheese, orange juice, flowers, daisies, her favorite. When he returned, the diner door was unlocked. Lucy was inside, apron on, coffee brewing. She looked up. "You left." "I came back." She smiled. "Good." He set the bag down, pulled her close, kissed her, morning breath and all. She laughed against his lips. "Gross." "Perfect." They ate breakfast at the counter. Bagels torn by hand, coffee in mismatched mugs. The door jingled. A delivery driver, clipboard in hand. "Package for Anthony Reed." Lucy froze. Anthony took the envelope. Inside, legal documents. His board had filed an injunction, claiming he'd misused company resources during his sabbatical to fund personal projects, the diner's unpaid utility bills, the new walk-in cooler compressor he'd quietly paid for last month. They wanted access to his personal accounts. They wanted the story. Anthony stared at the papers. Lucy read over his shoulder. "They found you." He nodded. "They never really lost me." She took the papers from him, set them down. "Look at me." He did. "We fight this. Together. No hiding. No running. We face it." He exhaled. "Okay." She smiled. Fierce, proud. "Okay." They spent the day planning, her lawyer friend, his old trusted attorney, the one who hadn't betrayed him, community supporters who'd heard about the diner's quiet investor. By nightfall they had a strategy that no settlement and no silence, full countersuit for defamation and harassment, and a press conference Monday morning outside Harper's. Anthony would stand beside Lucy and no more pretending. The mask was off, and whatever came next, they'd face it hand in hand. If the Christmas Eve, "I love you," on the tiny balcony, Lucy's quiet, "I've known for weeks," the napkin note with "Love, Tony and Anthony," or the moment the legal papers arrived and Lucy said, "We fight this together," gave you chills or made your heart swell? Please share in the comments below. The Monday morning press conference outside Harper's Diner began as planned at 10 a.m., but by 9:40 the sidewalk was already impassable. 3 news vans had claimed the curb. Their satellite dishes pointed skyward like metal flowers. Reporters from the local affiliates jostled for position beside freelancers with phone tripods and live streamers balancing ring lights on selfie sticks. A small but growing crowd of neighbors, regulars, and curious passers-by spilled onto the street, some holding coffee cups from the diner itself, others clutching signs that read "Lucy and Tony deserve peace," and "Leave Harper's alone." Marco had set up a folding table on the sidewalk with free drip coffee and a handwritten note. "No charge today. We stand together." Inside the diner, Lucy stood at the window, arms crossed, watching the crowd swell. She had changed into the navy dress again, the same one from Christmas Eve, but this time she wore sneakers instead of heels. Her hair was down, loose waves she hadn't bothered to tame. Anthony stood behind her, hands on her shoulders, chin resting lightly on the top of her head. "They brought more cameras than last time," she said quietly. "They smell blood," he answered. "Or redemption. Depends on the headline they want." She turned in his arms. "You sure about this? We can still walk out the back door. Let the lawyers read a statement. No faces. No questions." He cupped her face gently. "If we run now, they'll never stop chasing. They'll keep digging until they find something, anything, to twist. I want them to see us. Really see us. Not the scandal. Not the billionaire and the waitress. Just us." Lucy searched his eyes. "You're not scared." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But I'm more scared of losing this, of losing you, Because I was too afraid to stand up. She exhaled slowly. Then we stand up. He kissed her forehead. Together. At 9:58 they stepped outside. The noise hit like a wave. Shouted questions, camera shutters, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Anthony raised a hand. The sound dropped. Slowly, unevenly, but it dropped. He stepped to the small podium Marco had borrowed from the community center. Lucy stood beside him, their hands clasped openly. No notes, no teleprompter, just them. My name is Anthony Reed, he began, voice clear over the street noise. For the last 4 months I've been Tony, the dishwasher at Harper's Diner. I came here to hide. I stayed because I found something I didn't know I could have. He looked at Lucy. I found Lucy Harper. She didn't know who I was when I walked in. When she figured it out, she didn't care. She saw me. Not the name, not the money, just me. And she let me stay. She let me belong. The crowd was silent now. He continued. The lawsuit filed against me by my former board is not about fiduciary duty. It's about punishment. Punishment for walking away from a system that puts shareholders above people. Punishment for choosing something real over something profitable. They fabricated evidence, harassed Lucy's family, and tried to turn our story into a tabloid circus. Today we're saying enough. He stepped aside. Lucy moved forward. She gripped the podium edges, knuckles pale, but her voice carried steady and strong. I'm Lucy Harper. I own this diner. My mother has cancer. My staff are my family. My regulars are my neighbors. This place isn't just a business. It's home. When Anthony, walked in 4 months ago, he needed a place to belong. I gave him one. Not because he's rich. Because he was kind. Because he stayed late to fix things that weren't his to fix. Because he listened to Mr. Delgado's stories and laughed at Marco's terrible jokes and carried my mother's groceries up 3 flights without being asked. She looked straight into the nearest camera. The people suing him are trying to make this about money. It's not. It's about people. About choosing kindness over control. About building something real instead of tearing things down. We're not hiding anymore. And we're not backing down. She stepped back beside Anthony. He took her hand again. Lifted it between them. Questions erupted. Mr. Reed, will you return to Reed Sink? No. Ms. Harper, did you know his identity from the beginning? I figured it out. It didn't change how I felt. Is this a publicity stunt? Lucy laughed short, genuine. If it was, I'd have charged more for the coffee. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Anthony squeezed her hand. Thank you for coming. That's all we have to say. They turned, walked back inside. The door closed. Inside, the diner felt smaller, warmer, safer. Lucy leaned against the counter. Breathing hard, Anthony pulled her into his arms. You were incredible. She pressed her face to his chest. I thought I was going to throw up. You didn't show it. She laughed shakily. Now what? Now we wait. The wait was short. By 11:30 a.m., the video had over 2 million views. By 1 p.m. #StandWithHarper was trending in New York. By 3 p.m., the board issued a terse statement. In light of recent public disclosures, we are withdrawing all claims against Mr. Reed and issuing a formal apology for any distress caused. By 4:30 p.m., the injunction was lifted. By 6 p.m., Anthony's former CEO resigned. Effective immediately. By 8 p.m., the frozen buyout funds were released. $2.8 billion wired to accounts in his name. Anthony stared at the notification on his phone, sitting at the small kitchen table in Lucy's apartment above the diner. She sat across from him, 2 mugs of tea between them. So it's over, she said softly. It's over. She reached for his hand. What now? He looked at her. Really looked. Now I ask you something I've wanted to ask since the night you made me chilly and let me stay. She waited. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Simple. No logo. Inside. A thin platinum band. Delicate. Unadorned except for one small, perfect diamond and flash. No statement piece. Just honest. He slid off the stool. Dropped to one knee on the worn linoleum. Lucy Harper, he said, voice rough, thick. I came here pretending to be poor because I was tired of people wanting what I had instead of who I was. You saw me when I had nothing to offer but dishpan hands and bad coffee jokes. You let me stay. You made me want to stay. Forever. Marry me. Not Anthony Reed the billionaire. Marry Tony. The guy who still burns toast and can't dance but loves you more than he knows how to say. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She laughed, joyful, bright. Yes. She pulled him up, kissed him. Deep. Laughing through tears, he slid the ring onto her finger that it fit perfectly. They held each other. Swaying slightly, no music, just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of the city. Later. After Ellen woke and cried happy tears. After Marco called and hooped so loud the phone speaker crackled. They sat on the tiny balcony wrapped in a blanket. Snow had stopped, stars were out, rare in Brooklyn. Lucy rested her head on his shoulder. Still worth it? He kissed her hair. More than ever. She smiled. Me too. But the storm wasn't fully over. The next morning, Tuesday, Anthony's phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. His former chairman's voice, cold, clipped. Congratulations on your little PR victory. Enjoy it. Because we're not done. We've filed an emergency appeal. We're seeking to freeze your assets again. Personal, not corporate. And we're naming Ms. Harper in the amended complaint. Conspiracy to defraud. Breach of fiduciary duty by association. She'll be deposed. Dragged through discovery. Every text. Every bank transfer. Every late-night conversation. We'll make sure the world sees exactly who she is. Anthony's grip tightened on the phone. You're bluffing. We're not. You walked away from billions. You think we'll let you do it quietly? The line went dead. Anthony stared at the screen. Lucy walked into the kitchen. Hair still damp from the shower, wearing one of his old t-shirts. What is it? He handed her the phone, showed the call log. They're coming for you now. Her face paled. They can't. They can try. They'll drag you into court. Subpoena your records. Question your motives. Make it look like you targeted me from the beginning. She sat down hard. I didn't. I know. But they don't care about truth. They care about winning. She looked up, eyes fierce despite the fear. Then we fight. Harder. He knelt in front of her. I won't let them hurt you. You won't be able to stop them alone. He took both her hands. Then we don't do it alone. She searched his face. What does that mean? It means we go bigger. We don't just defend. We counterattack. We expose every dirty tactic they've used. Every forged document. Every leak they paid for. We go to the press again. We go to the shareholders. We go to the regulators. We make them regret ever coming after us. Lucy exhaled slowly. That means war. It does. She nodded once. Then we go to war. The next 48 hours were a blur to Anthony's trusted attorney, Maria Delgado, the one lawyer who had never betrayed him, filed an emergency countermotion. Defamation, abuse of process, malicious prosecution. They attached the metadata analysis, the IP logs, sworn affidavits from the former executive assistant who had flipped and admitted to forging the emails under board pressure. They leaked the full counterpacket to 3 major outlets, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, local NBC affiliate. By Thursday morning the headlines shifted. Reed board accused of evidence fabrication in billion-dollar vendetta. Former COO admits to planting false emails. Harper Diner owner countersues. This is about intimidation, not law. The board's stock dropped 11% in pre-market trading. By noon, they issued a panic statement. We are conducting an internal review and have placed certain executives on administrative leave pending investigation. By 3 p.m., the U.S. Attorney's Office announced a preliminary inquiry into possible securities fraud and witness tampering. By 6 p.m., Anthony's frozen assets were unfrozen. Court order. By 8 p.m., the board's lead counsel called Anthony personally. We'd like to discuss settlement. Anthony put the call on speaker. Lucy sat beside him. No settlement, he said. You drop everything. You issue a full public apology on company letterhead, on your website, on CNBC if they'll have you. You pay our legal fees. And you never come near us again. Silence. Then, we can do that. Good. He hung up. Lucy looked at him. It's really over? It's really over. She exhaled, long, shaky. Then she laughed, tears mixing with the sound. He pulled her into his lap, held her tight. We won, she whispered. We won. They sat like that, wrapped around each other until the city lights came on below. The storm had passed, and what remained was them. Still standing, still together, still choosing each other. Every single day. If this revised climax, the packed press conference, Lucy's steady voice beside him, the board's panicked retreat, the rooftop moment where the legal threat tried one last time to break them but failed, gave you the payoff you were waiting for. Please tell me in the comments below. The morning after the press conference felt like the first quiet breath after a storm that had lasted months. Anthony woke before dawn. Old habit. But for once he didn't reach for his phone or the tablet on the nightstand. Instead he turned toward Lucy, still asleep beside him in the narrow bed above the diner. Her hair spilled across the pillow in soft waves. One arm thrown over his waist like she was anchoring him even in dreams. He watched her breathe for several long minutes, counting the rise and fall of her chest, memorizing the small freckle constellation on her left shoulder that only showed when she slept on her side. He slipped out carefully, pulled on sweatpants, padded downstairs barefoot. The diner was dark except for the faint glow of the neon open 24 sign bleeding through the front windows. He started the coffee extra strong the way Lucy liked it first thing. Measured out honey and oat milk for her latte. Stirred counterclockwise because she once said it feels luckier. Carried 2 mugs back up the narrow stairs. She stirred when he set hers on the nightstand. Morning husband-to-be, she mumbled, eyes still closed. Morning wife-to-be. She cracked one eye open. No apocalypse notifications? None yet. She sat up slowly, hair a beautiful mess. That's suspicious. He handed her the mug. Enjoy the calm. It probably won't last. She sipped, sighed. It was worth it. Yesterday. Even if they never stop whispering. He sat on the edge of the bed. They'll whisper, but they won't touch us. Not anymore. She looked at him. Really looked. You're sure? I'm sure. They stayed like that. Coffee cooling, fingers laced, until her phone buzzed on the dresser. Marco. Lucy answered on speaker. Sis? You alive? The internet is exploding. There are photos everywhere. You looked like a queen in that dress. And Tony, sorry Anthony, looked ready to fight anyone who breathed wrong in your direction. Lucy laughed. We're okay. More than okay. Marco whooped. Proud of you both. Tell Anthony he's officially family now. No takebacks. Anthony smiled despite himself. Noted. And thank you, Marco. Marco hung up. Lucy set the phone down. See? Not everyone hates us. Not everyone, he agreed. The first real crack in the silence came at 11:47 a.m. A courier arrived. Same service as the legal threats. This time a small cream envelope. No board crest. Just Anthony's name in careful handwriting. Inside, one sheet of stationery. We were wrong. The apology will air on CNBC tomorrow at 8 a.m. Legal fees reimbursed in full. We wish you both well. E. Langford. Chairman. Lucy read it over his shoulder. They folded. They had to. She looked at him. Are you okay? He folded the note. I'm free. She smiled. Small, proud, a little teary. Then let's celebrate. They closed the diner early that day, first time in years. Marco grumbled but helped hang a private events sign on the door. Ellen came down from upstairs. Chemo day off, color in her cheeks for the first time in months. They pushed 3 tables together. Lucy cooked. Pernil, arroz con gandals, tostins, flan from her mother's recipe. Marco brought beer and soda. They ate slowly, laughter filling the small space, stories overlapping. Ellen raised her glass of ginger ale. To Anthony, Tony, whoever you are, today, thank you for staying, for fighting, for loving my girl the way she deserves. Anthony swallowed hard. Thank you for letting me. They clinked glasses, later, after Ellen went back upstairs, after Marco headed to the firehouse. Anthony and Lucy cleaned up together. He washed. She dried. Same rhythm they'd had for months. When the last plate was stacked, she turned off the lights except one over the counter. "Walk with me?" He took her hand. They stepped outside. Snow had started again, soft, silent, blanketing Bushwick in quiet white. They walked, hand in hand, past closed storefronts, past the bodega with its Christmas lights still up, past the park where kids had built a lopsided snowman earlier that day. They ended up at the small playground 3 blocks away. Empty swings swaying in the wind, snow dusting the slide. Lucy sat on a swing. Anthony stood behind her. Pushed gently, she swung. Slow arcs, snowflakes catching in her lashes. "You remember the first night?" she asked. "Rain. Meatloaf. You told me to keep the change." She laughed softly. "I thought you were just another guy passing through. I thought you were just another diner owner." She dragged her feet, slowed the swing, turned to him. "I love you, Anthony Reed." He stopped the swing, knelt in the snow in front of her. "I love you, Lucy Harper." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out the small velvet box again, the one he'd carried every day since he bought it, opened it. The ring, thin platinum, one perfect diamond, caught the streetlight. "I asked you last night. You said yes. But I want to ask again. Here, now, in the snow, in Brooklyn, with no cameras, no headlines, just us." She looked down at him, snow in his hair, eyes shining. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, laughing through tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, stood, pulled her up, kissed her, deep, slow, certain, snow falling around them like confetti. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "Still worth it?" He smiled. "More than ever." The wedding happened in June, on the rooftop of Harper's. String lights Marco had strung the week before. Folding chairs borrowed from the community center. Flowers from the corner bodega and neighbors' gardens. Food from the kitchen, Lucy's mom's pernil, Marco's eras, pies from the bakery down the street. Ellen walked Lucy down the short aisle between rows of mismatched chairs. Abuela officiated, short, heartfelt, bilingual. Vows were simple. Anthony first. I promise to keep showing up even on the days I don't know how. To choose honesty over comfort. To build a life with you, not around you. To love you the way you've taught me how. Fiercely, quietly, every day. Lucy, I promise to keep seeing you. Not the name, not the money, just you. To fight beside you, not against you. To make sure you never feel alone again. To love you, Tony, Anthony, whoever you need to be. Forever. Rings exchanged. Matching platinum bands, engraved inside with the date he first walked into the diner. They kissed, slow, deep, certain. The rooftop erupted, cheers, whistles, kids throwing petals from the planters. Later, after cake, after dancing to a playlist on Marco's Bluetooth speaker, they stood at the railing, city lights glittered below. Lucy leaned against him. Still worth it? He kissed her temple. More than ever. She smiled. Me too. Years passed. Harper stayed the same. Same neon sign. Same patched booths. Same coffee that was always fresh. But upstairs grew. A second bedroom for Elena. Born 2 years after the wedding, dark curls, bright eyes, named after Lucy's grandmother. A third bedroom for the son who arrived 2 years after that. Liam, quiet like his father, curious like his mother. Anthony never returned to Reed Sink. He sold his remaining stake. Quietly, cleanly. Used the proceeds to fund community projects across Brooklyn. Free clinics, job training centers, affordable housing retrofits. He taught coding at the local high school 2 afternoons a week. Lucy kept the diner, expanded the menu slightly, added a small patio in summer. They grew old together in the same small apartment above the same small diner. One evening. Elena 13, Liam 11. They sat on the rooftop, city lights below, stars above. Elena looked at her parents. You guys are weird. Anthony raised a brow. How so? You could live anywhere, do anything. You stay here, washing dishes, pouring coffee. Lucy smiled. Because here is home. Liam tilted his head. But Dad was rich. Anthony laughed softly. I still am. Just not in the way people count. Elena rolled her eyes. You're gross. They laughed. Anthony pulled Lucy close, whispered against her hair. Thank you. For what? For letting me stay. She kissed his cheek. You never left. The city hummed below. Alive, ordinary, beautiful. Up on the roof, a family sat together. Not in wealth. Not in fame. I in love. And it was everything. If this journey, from rainy night stranger to rooftop vows, from secret dishwasher to open forever, from pretending to be poor to choosing to stay simple, left your heart full, please share one moment that stayed with you in the comments below. The first Christmas Eve chili? Lucy's I've known for weeks? The press conference hand raise? The final rooftop with the kids? One honest feeling, one favorite line, one emoji. I cherish every single one of you who stayed until the very last word. Thank you for traveling with Anthony and Lucy. If stories of love that chooses ordinary over empire mean something to you, drop a or just say home below. See you in the next heart story. Expand family life scenes. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.